Alright, welcome back to the Black Market. I'm your host, Cobalt for Scotland Black. And today we're taking a look at Tears of Metal. $25 for an early access hack and slash. That is a complaint I keep seeing since release a couple days ago. Somebody even removed it from their wish list over the price tag, and honestly, I get the instinct, especially as someone who plays a lot of indie games. But I think that's the wrong read on this game. Tears of Metal is Paper Cult's new thing. The studio behind Bloodroots is a co-op musou roguelike, which sounds odd, but basically the short version of that is you're one man slicing through an entire army as an unstoppable force. Dynasty Warriors has been doing this for decades. What's new here is that they actually bolted a roguelite structure onto it. Instead of just slapping a few percentage upgrades on top and calling it a day, or just a simple roguelite coat of paint, they made it a roguelite. And look, some of that flat percentage stuff is still here. I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. But there's a second layer sitting on top of that, and this is the part that really changed my whole opinion on the price thing. Every hero has their own pool of weapons and gear. They're not reskins of each other, and if you build up on your meta progression for one character and then switch to a new hero, those upgrades don't come with you. They're gone. You're starting over, technically. And that's not a costume change, not a thin veneer. These characters are completely different. And that's more commitment to the roguelite side of things than I expected from something wearing a musou skin. Let me actually go through a run because just talking about these concepts abstractly only gets you so far. So you start each campaign by picking one of the three heroes. There's 3 heroes now in early access. They have 2 more slated to be released during early access, so I think upon 1.0 of the game there will be 5 in total, but you pick one of the 3 that are currently out. I spent most of my time on William Wallace because, well, he has a giant sword. I mean, it's partly because I like the moveset and partly out of the fact that I've unlocked the most meta progression for him, but also giant sword. Anyways, this game's split into 3 acts, and each one throws a different flavor of enemy at you. Act 1 is mostly your bog standard occupier troops. They're real easy to read and good for learning your combos. They come with elite units, but these elite units are also simple and fairly slow. You should really use them to learn your block timings and your dodge time. Then you hit Act 2. You're getting much stronger elites mixed in with these waves. Less predictability and more attacks. By now, you should know when you need to block and when you need to dodge. But these elites are the ones that teach you that button mashing is heavily punished. And in Act 3, well, I'll let you know what happens in Act 3 when I get there. Then there's the other half of the game, the part I keep coming back to. Between runs, you're not just spending currency on flat stat boosts. You're recruiting bannermen, actual named soldiers who level up permanently and carry forward into your next campaign. Lose one in a bad fight, and that loss actually costs you something in the next run. Sure, you can revive them, but it costs more each time, and I imagine at a certain point, it's not worth it to continue reviving the same bannerman. But build a squad that leans archer heavy, and suddenly, that extra bit of damage you need to take out the boss is a lot easier to find. Build a squad that is heavier on spearmen, and you can clear yourself a path to whatever objective you need to get to promptly and expeditiously. Have a squad that leans more towards infantrymen, and you're applying constant battlefield pressure wherever you are. These bannermen actually have real consequences, and the ones you go into battle with actually matter. I didn't expect a mechanic like that to change how much I care about individual soldiers, but it does. There's a weird attachment that builds up over a few hours. The bannermen can also get perks, and this will start allowing you to really dial in on a build. Some allow you to start runs with certain relics. This system shouldn't be ignored if you want to succeed in the game. On top of bannermen, you have the settlement layer, which is basically your hub between campaigns. This town is built in a Darkest Dungeon-esque fashion. Each building has its own purpose, and it upgrades something that will affect your runs. But back to the price complaint. $25 looks steep if you're comparing it to something like Vampire Survivors or Brotato, but those are completely different kind of game. Small, tight, one system doing all the work. While you are killing hordes of enemies, this isn't a survivor-like. What you're getting here is 3 full acts, 4-player co-op, 3 heroes each with their own upgrades and gear, a battalion layer that most full-price games wouldn't even attempt, and a settlement meta progression system. Stack that against what a full-price Warriors game gives, or a full-price roguelite usually ships with at launch, and $25 starts looking less like a cash grab and more like a studio that spent 6 years on this and actually believe in their product. It's worth mentioning too that there was a demo out ahead of the launch and it got pulled back in early July because it doesn't match the current build anymore. Saves didn't carry over either. I know that is something that annoyed a lot of people, especially people who'd been sitting on the demo for months, and that's a fair frustration to have. But it also tells you the team kept iterating right up until release instead of just freezing the game early and coasting on old footage. Is it perfect? No. The character models have taken some heat from the community. Oftentimes when I see this, it's more of a style complaint rather than a legitimate gripe based on sloppy models or something. But while I can understand that these characters don't look like what people normally expect, I find that the style suits the game perfectly. That's also purely a subjective take anyways. It's not concrete reasoning for disliking the game. I understand if you don't like the art style and it's not for you, and that's fine. But it doesn't make the game bad. I think stylized approaches are fantastic and they give games a lot more character. But the focus here is the mechanics and the gameplay, both of which are solid. The roadmap they've laid out slates 4 to 12 months of early access, with more heroes coming, more voice acting. For me personally, I think it would be great if they could add boss variants or other bosses so that when you finish an act, it doesn't always come to the same conclusion. So there's a lot more to look forward to. Combat holds up its end too. It's not just mindless button mashing with roguelike math bolted on. The difficulty curve wants you paying attention. You need to be paying attention to your positioning, to your bannerman's ability cooldowns, to which artifacts you're stacking. I died more than I expected in my first few runs, and every death taught me something instead of just feeling cheap. There's a rhythm to it once it clicks, where you start reading elite tells the same way you read a boss pattern in something like Hades, except the crowd around you never stops moving. It's easy to get lost in the chaos of battle, and that's where mistakes get made. Co-op changes that equation too. You only get to bring 2 bannermen, so each of you needs to choose wisely, and on top of it, your resources are no longer just your own. Yes, while you still are in control of how much coin you earn, and you're in control of your whole stash of coin, you're going to want to save it. Not necessarily for upgrades later, but I save a little bit more coin when I'm playing with friends because reviving one of your buddies costs coin. You also want to pay attention to who's building what. Certain powers don't necessarily need to be taken multiple times. Take Crusader, for example. It focuses on healing and crowd control. If one of my friends takes Crusader, I don't need to take the crowd control from Crusader. We have someone doing crowd control. I want to focus more on damage. Maybe I'll go with Alchemist for the damage over time. If it's that kind of thing that you're into, keep an eye out because I think this is definitely going to be a genuinely great game for our Friday nights here on the channel. So where does that leave us? If you've been sitting on the fence because of the price, I'd push back on that. You're not paying for a Musou game with a roguelike coat of paint. You're not paying for Survivor-like with some extra systems. You're paying for a genuinely layered game with multiple systems that work together that happen to be wearing a Musou skin. And those are 2 very different purchases. It's an easy recommendation. Rough models and all, I expect it only gets better from here. This game is definitely a buy if you enjoy anything like Dynasty Warriors, or even some of those more Hades-like style games. If those games aren't your jam, then this isn't going to be for you. I'd wait for a sale if you're looking at it and you feel that the content is a little bit light for yourself. 3 acts is hefty in this kind of game, especially with the replayability provided. However, I do understand when one looks at that and thinks that they would like to see more maps and other things. And so maybe you want to wait for a quick sale. Either way, I think at the very least, it's a wait. This game has given me hours of entertainment, and I'm happy with the money I spent on it. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to grow the channel right now, and every little bit helps. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. I stream Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, so feel free to stop by and say hi. As always, I'll be back later in another video. Peace out. And a special thanks to all our members for supporting the channel. You guys are what allows me to keep making these videos and doing what I love, so thank you.